I don't want to be on the side of bigotry. I don't want to be on the side of injustice or oppression. And these things are so self-evidently wrong that it feels very clear to me, and I guess to us right-minded people, that it's the right thing to do to speak up about that. But since you were kind enough to mention, and we talked the other day about the fact that I am an OWG, I'm an old white guy, that makes me part of a system, kind of like the establishment. And the problems that we're dealing with here are systemic issues, and the system's got an agenda. But I guess I wonder whose agenda the system is serving when it hurts people. It takes away opportunities, it takes away civil rights, and that's not my agenda. So the system's not serving me. It's not my company's agenda. I feel pretty strongly that I can speak for David or Richard and anybody bothering to tune into this. It's not their agenda. So David and Richard both spoke about responsibilities, and being part of that system, we have a really strong responsibility to speak up, to do things like this, as you say, put our money where our mouth is, and try and change things.
With 1 billion fans around the world and over 300 million of them connected digitally, you get plenty of feedback. So to a degree, that's part of the courage that comes with leadership. I think the biggest obstacle was the fear of backlash rather than the reality. In my experience, our fans have been absolutely amazing, incredibly supportive on this area, and it was a very unfounded fear of backlash in reality, and self-healing. The voices in support far outweighed any adverse feedback, and I would encourage anyone contemplating taking steps to be active in this area to do so, because the support will be overwhelmingly behind you and there's little to fear.
And I think some of the best leaders, knowing when to lead from the front or follow from the back, but guide or rally the cats in the right direction is quite important. I think the thing that I have probably benefited the most in putting my head above the parapet or the tall poppy on occasion is having a good systems-based approach in which to work from. And what I've found is that there's one system that I've been consistently using over the past several years, which focuses on exercising our duty of care as a business first and foremost. So respecting and protecting people before we do anything else. And I think that includes everything around equality, diversity, inclusion, and embracing this notion of engendering a culture of respect and protecting that culture and protecting people within that culture, creating a safe working environment. And once you've done that, then you can start to talk about how are we going to provide success for the business and for individuals. How we promote and empower people. How do we help them make the most of opportunities, to be prepared for those opportunities and to have success and thrive.
For me, it's been a relatively comfortable and easy decision to do. I had an organization with strong values that included inclusion and diversity, and had done for a long period of time. I'm chaired of a foundation that was wonderful long before I joined, and will be long, as Andy said, in terms of long into the future. They'll be doing amazing things, and so I think again, the learning I would say of that for anyone who's at a large organisation that does have good values is those need to be upheld, and you need to do your bit on that journey, and you need to continue to push to make sure that there isn't complacency and that there's proactivity on improving, because again there is a huge amount still to do in this field, and you can't rest having taken the first few steps.
But I certainly believe that as a construct I've used in a number of organizations, which comes down to which in makes dealing with backlash much easier. Because actually the whole brand of the organization and the ethos of the team and the group are actually to move as one. The importance of values, understanding your values, having them, and those collective values I was talking about originally, how they feed into a culture. And cultures are systems. We are often, by our own social disposition, we gravitate to our familiar patriarchal cultures, that hierarchy usually led by patriarchs. I think what the world is faced with right now is this change into clan-based cultures and to market-driven cultures. And last but not least, one that we are trying to strive towards at the Commonwealth Games Federation and within Commonwealth sport is this notion of the adhocracy culture, which is to make things much more people-centric, collaborative focused, risk-taking, innovative, and fit for purpose in terms of its agility. What that allows us to do in dealing with backlash is to make good decisions, upholding our character, and reflect outwardly with a consistent communication plan through our personality, which helps us position our brand.
In stepping into what can be a sensitive area was that through clumsiness rather than intent, it would end up causing offence rather than generating a positive effect. And then secondly, becoming fearful about being the centre of attention on what is such a sensitive issue. And, despite those fears, because of the beliefs and values of the club, we went ahead and launched that campaign. And, in hindsight, I'm really glad we did. The support we got from our fan base was overwhelming, including self-policing. So, we had a tiny minority of fans who said that this didn't represent their values, and an overwhelming number of fans who said, well, that's the case. This is the club. And, it does represent the values we stand for. And that was phenomenal that you saw that overwhelming support.
Sport is great about talking about individual values. When you are in the position of a federation, an owner of a club or a league, collective values become quite important. And in understanding what we collectively believe in and what we hold ourselves, our truths to. And the Commonwealth, in terms of its diverse geography, in terms of its diverse demography or demographics, in many forms of diversity as well, and then looking at its shared history, I think addressing each one of those points openly, honestly, transparently, even if there are the conversations around the good, the great, the bad, the ugly, is quite important. And this day and age, again, there is nowhere to hide. So why try to hide? It's absolutely critical to have, and you use the word, that courage to be vulnerable. Courage to be vulnerable, to grow, and to thrive. And I think the lessons that I've learned from a number of occasions where we've had to embrace either post-colonial or post-conflict realities, because we are the Commonwealth and we have that shared history, and it has had a knock-on effect, have been very uncomfortable conversations, but necessary conversations that have actually helped us jump over walls, blast through ceilings, and really create much more meaningful partnerships.
Best way to get comfortable feeling uncomfortable, it should be a trick question, and we should see it as a trick question, because if you're doing things right, it needs to be uncomfortable. If you're speaking out in the context of systemic inequity, it should be uncomfortable. And when it starts to get comfortable, either you've got your head in the wrong place, or we've won to make it, I guess, the battle that it is. But it's worth noting, there are a number of fears and guilt that we need to get over with. I mean, we decided as a group that we're not going to shy away from the elephant in the room, but on some levels, my career will have benefited from that system that is fundamentally broken, and we are afraid of having those awkward conversations. They're unfamiliar and unpracticed words, and making yourself unpopular. Actually, I think a lot of people are crippled in trying to make a difference, and Richard touched on that as well. We're so afraid as to whether we should or shouldn't say BAME, for instance, and it just makes people not take action. And again, listening, be prepared to make a few mistakes. In my experience, nobody's held me against it as long as I do it with a good heart and authenticity. And again, something else that was touched upon, this worry that you're bandwagoneering, to use the more familiar in America, this, am I going to come across as just another straight white man trying to be woke? And those kind of fears, again, stop you doing the right thing. But it's the theme here, isn't it? Injustice is everybody's issue. So I suppose my parting shot would be aware of these things, but get over it, because frankly, a little bit of discomfort utterly pales next to decades, centuries of injustice. So we've just got to get over it, feel uncomfortable, and hope that the day comes where we all feel comfortable.